In the eyes of an onlooker, Freminet doesn't have much of a presence, and comes across as cold, almost to the point of being pessimistic. He's always silent, alone, and doesn't seem to enjoy the company of his peers. Compared to his older brother, the legendary great magician Linny, Freminet seems as dull as a piece of old, soon-to-be-forgotten jewelry, but he doesn't care what they think. A long time ago, Freminet began trying to strip away excess emotions to prevent his being affected by external pressures. As if building an igloo in his heart, he piled up block after block until he had constructed a translucent refuge and curled up inside. Clutching his knees, the only thing that gave him solace was reading fairy tales. If diving underwater was a way to steal a moment of peace, then sealing himself in a sanctuary of solid ice was actually a way to stay warm. Freminet would only ever invite his closest kin in, and even then, he'd insist on tidying up first, making sure to lock his fairy tales away. By the time Freminet left, he'd already turned into a clockwork toy. Exquisitely made, yet silent as ever. He once found himself floating on his back upon the waters, unconcerned with his own safety, listening to the unknown songs of violet gold angler gulls circling overhead. In hindsight, it was fortunate that they had mistaken him for a fish. It was in that moment that he discovered how easy it was to just let the currents carry him away. No matter who was asking, and no matter what they wanted, as long as he followed orders unquestionably without a thought for the consequences, like an angler bringing home their catch, he would no longer have to face the endless cycle of castigation and punishment. In the years that children from ordinary families ran about laughing, showing off the latest clockwork toys or picking up phrases from the steambird, Freminet's heart was gradually becoming numb. Orders filled the void and became like a clockwork spring driving him forward. He used to fantasize about turning into a cold, cruel machine, driven only by the imperative to execute commands. But as he matured, he became increasingly aware of his essential weakness. He wanted to leave emotions behind, but there were too many feelings that he couldn't just cast aside. They would always come back in the dead of night, suddenly gripping him like seaweed wrapping around his limbs. His habit of avoiding problems, his worry that he would not complete his task well, his fear of annoying people with his lack of enthusiasm, and his dread of disappointing others. Those who meant something to him, most of all. He wasn't an outstanding child, but he simply became hypersensitive to everything in the world he grew up in. He hid himself within a thick shell and yielded to his timidity, until he could only express himself underwater.